What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turn on the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host. We had a 1 week hiatus. I think that we both were just really busy with the holiday and everything. And honestly, there wasn't a lot to talk about coming to that Bills game. Russo, how you doing? You've been crushing it on the first and forever. It's not first and 10s anymore.
It can't be first and 10, man. That's I just with the state of the offense, it's got to be first and forever. That's what it feels like watching the Jets. But honestly, we were talking before the show. You said you're apathetic. I mean, you're trying to let them not impact your life anymore. I wish I could be as strong as you because they get me. This is it. I think you couple the hopes of the season in general and the vibes that were coming into that opening game, September 11th. And then the false hope that they gave you through the first, 6-7 games. I think all of that combined with how the team has looked, they've just had no sign of life for the last 4. It's just, this is as bad as it's been in the last 13 years where they haven't done anything. I don't think any other season really compares with this. I was trying to think. I know Joe Caporoso tweeted out like his rankings of how bad it is over the last 13. And honestly, I would say 2016 comes closest for me, but it's really not even close. This is as bad as I can remember. It really is. How about for you?
It's like a weird situation because, the goalposts changed as soon as Rodgers got hurt. So it's like you had these high expectations and you thought that things were going to happen and they were going to finally break this drought. But at the same time, it's like I don't know if it's ugly. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we don't even really have to go through this Dolphins game. I feel like it's been almost a week at this point, and
Yep.
you and I have been doing a good job of not doing these knee-jerk reaction podcasts because, like, I think if I did them so quickly, I would be just a mess, and I don't want to do it. And it allows me to compose myself and be a human. But like, yeah, it's been as bad because the expectations were so high and now the lows are so low because this is like the most inept offense we've seen. And it feels like we've had this conversation so many times over and over and over again. It's like, when does it end? Why can't they get this going on offense? Like, I don't understand. But like, yeah, 2016 was tough because there was expectation, even though in the back of our minds, we knew Fitzpatrick was probably not going to be able to duplicate what he did in 2015. I would say 2011 is kind of similar because they were 8-5 and there were expectations. It seems good. And they collapsed. Obviously, 2012 was when everything really started to go downward, and then it just we haven't seen anything. But it's just horrible in its own way because we've seen so much bad football, and like it's weird because the defense is good, but like you're worried at this point, is the defense going to start quitting because they can't take all the hard work they were putting into the preparation throughout the week, the effort they're giving on Sunday. And then when they just see nothing, 8 points a game from the offense, it's like, do you blame them? Like, it's such a deflating feeling. I know that was long-winded, but like, I don't really know. This is such a unique season because it's something, I guess Brett Favre would be like the closest thing because it was like, you got that quarterback, but they were much better. They were 8-3.
They were much better. The offense was better.
There was an offense.
And I think when you look at it objectively, right? Like the reasons and the excuses, for lack of a better term, are everywhere, especially for this offense. Like, they've been decimated by injuries. They've lost 4 of their 5, starting offensive linemen that they started the first game. Clearly, Aaron Rodgers went down. Zach Wilson's not it. Like, the excuses are everywhere. Outside of Garrett Wilson, nobody can get open. Like, everything, but all that being true, it still shouldn't look this bad.
No.
Right? Like that, like any NFL professional offense can function higher than this. Teams somehow stumble into touchdowns. Teams somehow find a way to remain at least competitive for a quarter or two.
Yep.
And the Jets simply just they can't get anything going. And a mere 3-point lead for the opposition feels insurmountable. And it's to the point, and I did it. I said it yesterday on the solo pod, but it's like I was cheering like hell for that Brandon Echols pick 6, but in my heart, I knew it was still it's a 3. What I thought would be a 3-point lead, but Zerline missed the extra point. What I thought was a 3-point lead was still felt insurmountable, and it's still like the Jets still have no shot, even though it's 10-7. More should have been 10-7. Momentum should swing. It still felt like it was not going to happen, and I've never seen an offense this bad and this inept and shoot themselves in the foot and just not have any sense of like, there's no chance at success in any way, shape, or form. And until we see otherwise, there's no reason to think it's going to happen.
Yeah, like we were talking about this. Like, I just can't pick them to win until they show some sort of life on offense. Like, I'm not going to pick them to win today. Spoiler for anyone who's watching or listening.
Surprise,
But
surprise.
it's so deflating as a fan when you love this team. And look, I'm not getting as juiced up for these games as I normally would with Tim Boyle at quarterback. But like you said, it's like if they're down 10 points, they're dead. Like, I don't even think that there's even a chance that they could win the game. And that is such a disheartening thing is you love and you love this team with so much passion. And you think about them all off season throughout the summer and camp and all the updates. And then you get to the games and it's just like, if they're not showing any signs of life, you're like, they're done. They're toast. And that's just it's such a bad place to be as a fan. Like, I love the Knicks and there's been so many dark years as a Knicks fan, but like, they finally have figured out a way to, have a really nice product. I mean, look, they're not going to win the championship this year, but at least night in, night out, they're going to fight. They're well coached. Like, people have their thoughts on Tom Thibodeau, but like, that they're not going to look like this and so inept. I mean, they have their flaws at times, but like, they're a competent, decently ran organization. I mean, they've made a lot of good moves, and it's like the Jets in theory have made good moves, and a lot of the stuff that they did, we agreed with at the time, but it's like, there's so much that I have issue with, and I feel like we've talked about ad nauseum, whether it's the way they've handled the backup quarterback, it's the lack of skill players, it's the offensive line, it's punter up until this year, and finally they fixed punter, and then everything else goes bad. It's just like if it's one thing, then there's the other. But they just haven't had a good offensive coordinator like ever. Like, what's the last time we had a good offensive coordinator?
Charlie Weiss.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, right? And that's how far back you really have to go. I mean, I think Schottenheimer gets a lot of hate, and that's probably a little bit unfair. I wouldn't say he was a great offensive coordinator, but listen, he was a coordinator for teams that went to the playoffs in what, 06, almost 08, but 9, 10. I mean, he had a decent offense. I think Schottenheimer was better than a lot of people give it credit for. And I think now, knowing what I'd give my left nut to have Schottenheimer back calling plays.
You want to know what the issue is? It's just I don't think that they developed Sanchez properly, and I think Joe kind of touched on this last week on Badlands. It's like he did a lot of good things, but they didn't let Sanchez throw the ball down the field in the beginning, and then they put too much on his plate. That was the issue. But like, Shotty definitely knew how to call plays. It's like Hackett is so inept and has no idea what he's doing. He has no feel for the game. It's like the most predictable thing. I know everyone makes the joke. First down, first play of the game. It's always going to be a what's it called? A Breece Hall run up the middle. Mm-hmm. Like it's like I wish you could if you could bet that, it'd probably be minus 10,000 because it's the most obvious thing.
And if they ever do pass on first down and it's incomplete, that a second down draw to Breece Hall is coming, without a doubt. Second down shotgun draw. It's the most predictable offense. There's no imagination. There's no pizzazz. There's no trick plays. He's not trying to do anything. He's not trying to run motion. He's not doing anything that could give this offense any life. And that is just one of the many problems with this offense is that they need 10 plays to 15 plays to go absolutely perfectly for them to methodically make their way down the field and score. And it's just not going to happen.
No,
because teams are just keying on Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. The miracles are over, and you're not going to get that because anyone is going to commit a penalty, back the sticks up. They're going to be in 1st and 20, and the drive's over. And it's the most infuriating thing to watch, and that's why we are, to your point, apathetic at this point because that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and it's just I just want something to get excited about. I mean, they're playing the Falcons this week, and I just feel like that's a team that they could beat. Yep. The Falcons are feisty on defense. They can run the ball. They're not really a threat in the pass game, even though Ritter has shown some signs of life. But it's just crazy. I want to talk about Rodgers because it's actually insane. We've been hearing for probably the past month that he was targeting this December 2nd return. The fact that he's literally on the practice field, even if it's in a limited capacity, he's dropping back and throwing. What? How is this happening? It's 77 days. It hasn't even been a full 3 months since he did that. And I know there's been a lot of discourse about like, should he play? Should he not play? I mean, I'm gonna give you my honest opinion. Like, unless they're like they somehow start winning games, I don't think he should play. But like I understand the argument. So it's like if they do play him, I'm gonna be like excited because it's like at least I get to see this, and this is what we were promised, and this is what we were hoping for going into the season. But like I'm still gonna be scared like hell, like the way we were feeling when he was in that like one quarter in the Giants preseason game, worrying about him getting hurt, especially now that we've seen him get hurt. But like I like fully expect it. Like, what are your thoughts? Like if let's just say, okay, what are they 4-7 right now? If they get, let's just say they win, somehow they win 2 of their next 3. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't. I'm just giving the hypothetical.
So they're 6-8. And they're what? Their playoff chances are hanging by a thread, or their playoff chances are done?
I would say hanging by a thread. I feel like there's a chance you could sneak in at 9-8 with the way the AFC is.
The smart thing to do is don't even let them come back and shut it down. Don't risk it. The risk greatly outweighs the reward.
Agreed.
Right. And that's what my mind says. My heart says, screw it. I want to see him. And that's basically it. And I'm just to the point where I'm done like being not excited watching Jets football. I'm done feeling like sitting down on Sunday afternoons is like a burden. Like it's work. And that's because that's truly what it feels like. And I just want to see him. And I think you're 100% right. Like it is miraculous that we are legitimately witnessing this guy throw footballs to his teammates 77 days post-surgery. Like that's insane. That can't be overstated, right? Like that is legitimately crazy that he's back on the practice field. I do think outside of the Jets being in contention, there is definitely something for him to prove to like all the doubters. I think that is clear that is a huge part of his motivation is to prove that like he's this guy to be able to do it when no one else could do it, even a shade as close to this time frame. So my thoughts are, I think it's not smart for him to come back, even if their playoff chances are hanging by a thread, but shit, I'd love to see it. I'm that guy where I'm just like, I want to see him on the field. And I think there's a part of him too that wants to show that like this offense can work. If he's running the show, this offense can work. You can give hope going into next season. And I don't know, it'll just be fun to see. Honestly, I'd like to get the Patriots monkey off our back. So if he comes back just for that game to beat them, then screw it. It's all worth it.
I mean, regardless if he plays or not, I fully see us winning that game and giving them a quarterback for the future.
I don't know.
I do. I mean,
I don't know.
Have you watched them lately?
Have you watched us lately?
Yeah, but our defense is good enough to stop them. I feel like we should win by like just.
It should have been. It should have been the last 3 times we played them too.
Well,
and how that's
there.
Yeah,
it's actually insane that they can't beat Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is so bad. And I know he wasn't bad his rookie season, but how he's looked the past 2 seasons, it's really pathetic that they haven't been able to do it. But we'll see what happens in Week 18. But yeah, for Rodgers, like it'd be so cool to see, and like just like the juice that we'd all have, just the fact of like watching this, and then it'd be it's like. The scenario would be like, you look amazing, and then we get so teased, and then we have to wait all this time, and then who knows what happens next year of how he plays. Or he gets hurt again, which is like the worst case scenario, or he looks bad. This is like, I like other than like just the hope that you're going to be holding on to if he plays well, it's just like, it almost feels like it's going to be fool's gold. And I have like all these like terrible, like bigger picture thoughts about like where the franchise is going to go, after him, because it's like, how do you I don't trust this regime to build this thing, beyond him, and even really going to next year. And like you and I have been, big supporters of Saleh. We have praised Joe Douglas, but I would say that we've been more anti-Douglas than Saleh. And I'll be honest, but I think at this point I'm kind of annoyed with both of them, and like I want to transition that because we haven't really talked about it the last 2 weeks. So what's your pulse on Saleh? Like, how do you feel about him? Like, do you feel he, is a guy that can actually run a winning team? Because as he's 15-30, so there's nothing. He's not a winning coach right now. Mm-hmm. And do you think that if they lost out for whatever reason, that they should bring him back because it's like a mulligan with Rodgers?
Yeah, so I struggle with this one. I think there's a lot of things at play here. So to answer the first part of your question, what I will say is that how I feel about Saleh is that my patience is definitely getting a lot thinner. I love Saleh, the guy. I love Saleh, the coach. I think he has tremendous locker room presence, and what he can do to motivate, connect with players, all that, I think is fantastic and truly like commendable what he's done this year, at least for the first part of the season until these last this 4-game skid. I think that only gets you so far. My annoyance is with him. I think he's too hesitant to make changes, i.e. the quarterback. I think that obviously comes to light when Zach Wilson is starting up until he's benched, and then he's immediately number 3. Like, so why wasn't Simeon number 2 prior? Why was Zach Wilson still starting up until that point? And then immediately the second you decide to bench him, he's now number 3. Like, make those decisions sooner. You've seen this. You know how it's going to go. We've seen this movie before. Like, make those decisions sooner. The playing time, like getting Ruckert in there, benching, making Lazard inactivated, like all those things. Just be a little bit quicker on the trigger. I do think he's got to get a better finger on the pulse of like in-game stuff. Ultimately, though, he's going to get another year. So is Joe Douglas. I think Robert Saleh, I think they both deserve it because, and you got to take context of it. Like Adam Schefter tweeted the other day, or was he on McAfee when he said there could be 8 to 10 this year? You have to take that into consideration. So they're going to get another year. I think they should. And to answer the last part of your question, yes, with Aaron Rodgers coming back, I do think Robert Saleh could be the coach of a winning team. I do think he has that ability. And I just think you got to get offense right. And listen.
But he's been horrible at that. That's the thing.
And that is the problem. Now, the first 2 years, you could put a lot of that on Zach Wilson. And now we're kind of seeing maybe it wasn't Mike LaFleur. This year, you get Hackett, who really, in all actuality, was a necessary evil to get Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Rodgers goes down 4 snaps in, and you're left with this. So there's just a lot of context around it that muddies the waters. Ultimately, though, I think that Saleh deserves another shot here, and he's going to get it. But I do think he can coach a winning team. How do you feel about it all?
So I will say that I've definitely shifted in my feelings on him more in the negative light. Because, like you said, I like him as a guy. It's not like an Adam Gase who was like the least likable and personal coach you've ever seen. He's not like Bowles, who's boring. He has he has the mantra. He has he's very personable, and I feel like he's kind of real when he talks to people. And the players like him, and that's a good thing. And that's something that's important. In coaching the NFL, I know that the old curmudgeon, Bill Belichick's Parcells of the world. It's not the way to connect with players in the modern era. So I like that about him. I think he's done a good job with the defense. I think he's done a good job with player development, specifically on defense. But I think his inability to put together a competent coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball is a problem. And I understand that, he allows his guys to call the plays. He's not, but I think, and it goes back to LaFleur, like you said. Like, I think you and I were LaFleur supporters, still do, and we're not surprised that it's this. I will say that I was very pro Hackett, even if Rodgers wasn't coming, because I thought that the work that he did in Buffalo and in Jacksonville would hopefully be a sign of good things for us. I was wrong. I'm going to take it. It's fine. He's terrible. But I think the fact that Calabrese is still here is weird. And it's like people, I've heard, I forgot someone on the beat had told me that they really feel strongly about his long-term development as a coach. That's why they kept him around. They felt like another team would poach him, yada, yada. I don't know if that's true, but I just think that he's, he doesn't hire anyone that gives you confidence. I mean, all the guys like Downing and Keith Carter, they're not good, and they weren't good in their previous roles. And that's a problem. And I know that it wasn't a job that was super desirable because at the time when they put these, hires in place, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers. It was Zach Wilson, impending free agent Mike White, Strevler, and that was it. So it's like, okay. And obviously, Saleh's seat's starting to get a little bit warmer. I just don't trust him at this point. I mean, yes, he hasn't had a quarterback, so I'd like to see it. But, at some point, and you can't put this all on the offensive staff, they still have boneheaded penalties. He's not good with the clock. He's not good at being aggressive enough. He's gotten better at that, but I still have my issues. And that's why I like long term, I don't see it. But yeah, Rodgers can maybe cover a lot of those holes up, and I hope to see that. But if they lose out, he shouldn't be back next year, nor should Joe Douglas. And I know that's a problem, like you said, if there's like all these openings, it's like they're not going to be a desirable thing. But the roster isn't as bad as it's playing. They don't have a quarterback, and they don't have a good offensive staff. The defense is really good. You can fix a lot of the things that are a problem. I mean, you get more offensive linemen, hopefully get more weapons, and then it's different. But I don't believe in him long term. I really don't. But I'm hoping I'm wrong. Hoping to be wrong.
I mean, at this point, you have to look at what the record is. You know, Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. He's a 15-30 coach, and Joe Douglas is 24-53 GM. I mean, that's the reality of it. And you bring up a very good point on the penalties. Like that is 1000% coaching, and that is something that's been an absolute backbreaker for this team this season. And for some reason, they can't get it fixed. So that is 1000% a huge negative on Salah's resume. So we'll see. But now I thought, listening to Badlands, I thought Connor brought up a really good point. Like obviously you have to take into consideration like all these openings that will be there and what, why would the Jets be desirable? But for a GM/head coach combination, like the draw to having a win now mentality with a quarterback of Aaron Rodgers' stature, while also being able to build your way for the future, that is a draw. This is not a full tear down.
And you have pieces right now. And you
certainly have pieces. Like the Jet, like let's, and I think it's an interesting topic, so we can kind of pivot too. Because I saw actually a tweet today that said, it was Drew from Jersey, our boy there, who still, hey, if you ever listen, Drew, you're welcome to come on the show, man. You'd be an awesome guest.
He's hard to. We've tried.
It hasn't worked out. He flakes out, but. He tweeted that, even with Rodgers, that this year's Jets team would have been a very similar version of the 2022 Packers. I'm not sure if I fully buy that, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Like a young team, built momentum as the season went on, but ultimately I think they finished 8-9 or 9-8, obviously missed the wild card, from the last game of the season. I don't know if I fully buy that, but either way, even if Rodgers was here, regardless, this is still, you can see building blocks for this team as you look into 2024. You do not have to touch the defense. You put all of your assets, all of your picks, all of your cap space into offense, into offensive line, into playmakers at wide receiver, and you have a potential to make a run and push all your chips in the middle of the table. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. Like if Rodgers was healthy, all things considered, how would this team net out?
Significantly better. And I disagree with that notion. I think the Jets defense is significantly better than the Packers. I'm not saying the Packers have a bad defense. They have a solid defense, but like they have Jair, who's, one of the best corners in the league, but they don't have the trio the Jets have. They don't have the consistent pass rush anymore that the Jets have. I mean, they have Rashawn Gary, who's awesome. I think they still have Devondre Campbell, but like overall, I don't think it's even close. The Jets defense is really good. It's like a top 5 unit, I think, from a DVOA perspective. And if you have Rodgers being maybe between the 8th and 12th best quarterback in the league, and who knows, he could have been even better. No, I think 10 or 11 wins, getting into the playoffs, fighting with Miami for the division. I mean, I think that they would have been a lot better on Friday if they had him against 100%. Miami. And they probably, I would say right now, what are they, 4-7? I think they're probably 7-4 or 6-5. You can even make an argument.
And we had this conversation, I think, when the Jets were 4-4, and I thought they would have been 7-1, right?
Yeah.
I mean 6-2, 7-1 at least, right? And you were saying the same thing. I think maybe they were 4-5 at the time, but either way, like so, I definitely agree, and I think you taking the defense, the Jets defense this year over the Packers last year, 1000%, light years ahead.
I feel like. It's more like the Jets defense is like more comparable to the Packers defense when they went to back-to-back, what's it called? NFC championship games. Mm-hmm. Like that defense was really good. I don't think that the one in 2022 is the same. And I think that's why they weren't as good of a team as they were in 2021, 2020 and 2019. So yeah, I mean, I could see the points to that, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I do want to talk about Joe Douglas because I'm done with him, honestly. Like I don't believe in him as a team builder. It's like you shouldn't get two presidential terms to make the playoffs. Like assuming he's back next year, that's year 6, man. That's the full length of a contract, and he's not getting an extension. If they give him an extension, they're idiots. Unless Woody is like, okay, if it doesn't work out, I'll fire him and pay him. I don't care. You cannot give him an extension unless it's like a 1-year extension, so he's not lame duck. I think that people need to stop overrating this guy. Like, yes, he has made good picks and he's done a couple things from like an undrafted free agent standpoint, but the results are what they are, and he is one of the worst, in the modern day era records for a general manager. And I know Joe was asking for this for Badlands today. He was saying, like, who is there anybody who has less, who's had more games and not made the playoffs as general manager? Joe Douglas. I would love to know the answer to that. A guy I was thinking about, and I didn't look at his record. He may not have been in his job that much, was Matt Millen, because I remember he was with the Lions for a really long time, and the fans were super annoyed by having him for so long. They wanted him fired. But me, I don't think that this guy is capable of building a winning team. The offensive line is no better than what it was in 2019 when he inherited it. There's the same issues. It's you have like 1 or 2 guys, and that's it. You don't even have 4 out of 5. Like, can we at least have 4 out of 5 starters in place? I'm not saying that they need to be high-level superstar offensive line. They don't need to be the Dallas Cowboys of 2014 when they had, Ty Smith, Frederick, and Zach Martin, when they had those 3 guys at their prime. It just needs to be starters, and they don't have that. Like, next year, I only feel like they have Tippmann in AVT, and I guess maybe Carter Warren. I mean, you hope that Becton's okay, but like you can't rely on him, and he's a free agent. Dwayne Brown's 100.
At this point, can you rely on AVT?
It's a fair question, but when he plays, he's awesome.
Good.
That's the difference.
When Becton plays, he's good. It's just a big if.
Yeah, but at least we've seen AVT's rookie season played the entire year.
Yeah, true.
We've never seen that from Becton. He hasn't played a full 16 or 17.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's still a question. But I mean, he's not somebody they're getting rid of. That's the thing.
No.
But what are your thoughts on Joe Douglas?
So I looked it up real quick. First of all, Matt Millen, 8-year tenure as head of the Detroit Lions, and he has the worst record in the history of the modern NFL at 31-84.
There's the
answer. So
answer.
Joe Douglas is certainly approaching Matt Millen's status. Yeah, I think again you just have to look at it objectively, and Joe Douglas to this point is not a good GM. I mean, no one will discount the job that he had to do to clean up the mess that he inherited, right? You can't discredit that. However, what you can do is look and say that this regime was provided the lowest bar to clear by just not being Adam Gase. And the offense specifically is in a worse spot now than they were when Adam Gase left.
Yep.
And that's an indictment on Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. Now, injuries aside, it's still football. Injuries happen. You have to figure it out. I mean, it's just one of those things. He has things he can hang his hat on. The Jamal Adams trade, finding undrafted free agents like Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers, drafting Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson, signing DJ Reed in free agency, right? That's
literally the only good free agency signing.
Yeah, those are the things he hangs his hat on. The other things, the 2020 draft class, Braden Mann, I'm going to throw that one in there just for you, Steven. Corey Davis, Carl Lawson, like all of these swings and misses where, listen, you have to take that into consideration. So even if it's been a 50-50 good and bad on all of these pro personnel moves and draft moves, at the end of the day, your record's 24-53. So you are a DGM at best. And that's what it is.
No way. It's
what?
It's like a D-. It's borderline F.
Sorry. Okay. So you are not even mediocre. Let's put it that way. You're a bad GM. So until proven otherwise, like that's what he is. Now, again, he's going to get another year. They're all going to run it back because of Aaron Rodgers to see what they can do. After that, if 2024 is not a success, if there's no playoffs, I think everyone's gone.
I mean, yeah, but like, I just feel like you can't, like, if they lost out, if they started 4-4 or whatever it was, 4-4.
I mean, they were 4-3.
4-3, and they lost 10 straight games.
That's bad.
Come back. I don't care. It's NFL.
And, the other debate here, and you could speculate all day, is really how Aaron Rodgers would feel about all this, because I think he's clearly like the second most powerful person in the organization.
It's annoying, but like it is what it is. You sign up for it. You got to deal with it.
At what point, like, can Aaron Rodgers even can he really even defend this? Can he look at this offense and still stick by Nate Hackett and say, like, this is the guy we have to stick with? Now, what he's going to say is that, listen, Nate Hackett's offense is the one that I won back-to-back MVPs with, and he's right. But
it's actually not true, because he didn't call the plays.
without Nate Hackett, though, or I'm sorry, without Aaron Rodgers, this offense is the most inept offense in the NFL and maybe the history of the NFL.
Let's also remember that he also won 2 MVPs without Nate Hackett. So
true. Very
with Mike McCarthy, the play caller. So
very good points.
I just want to bring that up. So he could say I won 2 MVPs of this offense, which was called by Matt LaFleur, not Nate Hackett. But he also won 2 MVPs with Mike McCarthy. Everyone loves to drag through the mud. I just wanted to bring that up. I like this show because we, normally what we do, we always talk about the game, and there was just nothing to talk about. It's been the same shit for, like a month already. Remember when we were saying it was like, wow, they hadn't lost a game in a month, and now they haven't won a game in a month. It's
November. And I remember my bold prediction was them going 10-7 and getting a wild card. Got to walk that one back. Wow. See, my forever optimism, it's taken a hit this season.
Yeah, it certainly has. But like, what I can't blame you. So let's pick this Falcons game. I mean, we talked about it a little bit at the top, but what are your thoughts? What's this final score going to be? Are the Jets going to finally break out of this slump? Are they going to get a dub? I'm not going to pick them to win, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I don't think they get a win. I mean, I can't pick them until I see the offense move the ball in any sort of fashion. So, nothing really about the Falcons scares me.
Bijan does
in a normal world, but even I think the Jets can defend Bijan, and I think you gotta the thing you have to be scared about is how Vegas played them, where it was kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. It's like, if we just continue to pound the ball and we'll take these 3-yard chunk plays, and that's it, we'll just do it and do it and do it and wear them down, and ultimately we'll stumble into a touchdown, and that'll be enough to beat them. Like, that's the concern. I just don't think that the Jets have enough offensively to be able to do it. We haven't seen anything in the last 4 weeks to suggest that they're going to figure it out. Since the bye, they've scored 13, 6, 12, 6, and this past game they scored 13, but 6 were a pick six, so 7. I mean, is there anything to suggest they're going to get out of single digits? No, there's not. And, I don't want to digress too far, but I said it on the show yesterday. I feel like this season died with that Zach Wilson stepping out of bounds against Vegas and the CJ Uzomah penalty. I feel like that the season could have gone a different way had those two things not happened, as Zach Wilson either got in the end zone or Breece Hall got in the end zone without that penalty, and things just kind of fell apart from there. But I really don't see the Jets winning this game. I think it's going to be something ugly like 17-7 Falcons. I don't even know if that touchdown comes from a courtesy of the Jets offense. Maybe Sauce gets his first pick six or something. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a dogfight, but I just I don't see the Jets winning this one because I just simply don't think that their offense can pick up any slack.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with anything you just said. I think the one thing that you can get, hopefully a little bit optimistic and hold your head up with is Desmond Ridder is very prone to mistakes, and this Jets defense is going to capitalize on that. They are going to pressure him. They are going to probably force a few turnovers, so it will help them. It's just, what can the Jets do with that? Can they turn one into a touchdown? Can they, actually score on offense if they have the ball inside the 20 because of a turnover? That's really the key right now. I do think that Bijan has a nice day. I think he's really started to come on, but I do think the secondary is going to have its day. So it's just a matter of if they could stop the run, which I think they should be able to contain it a little, but I do think Bijan's going to have a nice day. I'm going to go 21-10 Falcons, but I think that they score, a fourth quarter touchdown. I think it's going to be like 14-10 most of the game, and then they score a touchdown to put it away late in the game. But it's just going to be the same thing. And listen, maybe Timmy Boyle, shows us something that we haven't seen, but I'm not feeling great about it.
Do you think that we see Simeon on Sunday?
Good question. I actually thought there was a chance that maybe they would have put him in the second half. I guess against Miami. Depends. Like if they're getting blown out, yes. If it's a close game, no. But if it's just like the same type of offense that we saw against Miami, I think he starts against the Texans. But I would say if I had like handicap from a percentage standpoint, I'd say 80% no that we don't see him. What about you?
I think there's a chance we do. I think the activation and move to number 2 had to be for a reason. I think they have to have a quick hook with Boyle, and I don't think he showed much of anything on.
He knows the offense, though.
Yeah, but I mean it only gets you so far. I think at this point, what do you have to lose? So I think there's a chance where if the offense sputters and the Jets are still in it, maybe at halftime the game's 3-0, 6-0, and the offense is still sputtering, you kind of go to Simeon for a little spark and see what he can provide. I think there's a chance of that because I think they went to Boyle by default to move away from Zach. I think at this point, I think everyone in the organization's got to know that Simeon gives you your best chance right now. We'll see.
I mean, I would have went to him last week, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's hard to be optimistic until you see reason to believe otherwise. We did get one question from our man Slippery Pete about going to the tailgate, which I was going to do at the bottom. Unfortunately, neither of us are going, but I know a bunch of the TOJ Badlands crew are going. Plenty of people to Discord. Just can't get around to doing it. I wish I could. I've been to a lot of the other Badlands events we've done, but if you have not signed up or RSVP, definitely do so. It's going to be awesome. I know it's in the E lot. I'd have to talk to Joe, but Joe, I'm sure we'll tweet it out over the weekend. But there's going to be cheesesteaks from Chitty's, which is awesome. The Profit guys will be there. I'm sure they're probably doing some sort of giveaway. That they're awesome. And I know Joe will be there. Will Dalvin. I know Meeks is making his MetLife debut for the first time in a while. And I think a few other people. It should be a good time. Make sure to check that out if you plan on going to the game. Also, make sure you subscribe to the show, whether it's on YouTube, youtube.com/@BadlandsTOJ. You can do it on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or Google Podcasts. It's literally just searching Turn the Jets Live. You look for our logo. Don't mistake it with Will's Pod, which you can subscribe to as well. That's just Turn on the Jets. And last but not least, obviously, if you're listening to the show or watching, you know about Badlands. Definitely sign up. It's the only way to get through these tough weeks. Joe and Connor do an amazing job with the post-game therapy and all the stuff that other guys with Paul and Jake and, Dan with Buck the Trend and, War Room and Film Room. I know the Film Room hasn't really been happening because there hasn't been much to want to watch. But I know when there is, good tape out there, Connor will be doing a great breakdown. So subscribe. It's awesome. Whether you're spending $5, $10, whichever membership you have, it's worth it. It's what we're built for. It's you need people who feel like you, who make you feel like you're not taking crazy pills with this team, because I certainly feel like that when I watch these games a lot of the time. Russo, any closing thoughts as we round out another episode?
I don't think so. I mean, the one thing I will say is, just keep joining us for therapy sessions. That's all we can be, right? You want to commiserate, and that's what we're here for. Mm-hmm. We can say the things that you're thinking, and you can know that you're not crazy by thinking the things that everybody else is. So that's what we're here for. Keep tuning in.
It's okay to not be okay when it comes to
the Jets. And
in life in general. But
yes.
I just want to let
with your Jets fandom, definitely.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, watching. We'll talk to you guys next week.